Hi everyone, welcome to this video. My name is Phil and I'm a senior lecturer in astrophysics at the University of Lincoln. And I want to use this video to kind of go back to galaxies yet again. Done quite a few videos on galaxies, but look at something known as supernova blowout and how it might actually impact a galaxy, even though these are kind of quite small events on their own from an individual star. Overall, they can have quite a big impact actually on the galaxy itself. So I'm just going to recap galaxies again. If you haven't come across these videos or you're not quite sure what a galaxy is, I'll recap that before we kind of go on to the supernova blowout of some types of galaxies. So galaxies are these vast systems of stars, gas, dust and dark matter, and they're gravitationally bound. Some of them are kind of rotation supporters, so they're kind of rotating like a disk, like the one shown here. Others are more spherical, they have more random motions of stars, and they have different ratios of stars, gas, dust, dark matter, depending on the type of galaxy that it is, and also the age that it is. When did it form? Did it form in the early universe? Is it kind of closer to present time? That all changes, but generally that's kind of what they're made of. They're very big systems of stars, gas, and that, basically. So they do come in quite a range of sizes and shapes. I think most of these here are actually disc-like galaxies. Some are edge-on, some are kind of more face-on, but you do have those more spherical ones. You get irregular ones. They can be all different shapes and sizes. So there's not just kind of like one or two different sorts of galaxy. However, I am just going to point out kind of a couple of the main types. So the Hubble classification system for galaxies looks a bit like a tuning fork. And on the right hand side, you've got your spiral galaxies. The top branch is for normal spirals that have like a spherical central bulge in them. And the bottom branch is for barred spirals, like the Milky Way. Sometimes you have an intermediate one, so it's like 3 branches, where it has a weak bar. So it's not a full strong bar, but it has, it's not perfectly symmetric in the center, like a spherical bulge. And they basically age as you go from right to left. Spiral arms get more tightly wound, they lose their gas content, and their stellar populations get older and they stop making stars, basically. Now, on the other side, you've got your ellipticals. These are in contrast to the spirals. They don't have spiral arms. They're more spherical shaped. They're not like a disc, basically. They don't have any real features, so quite smooth in appearance. Old populations of stars, very little gas content. And the stars within them have more random motion, so they have a larger velocity dispersion, we'd call that, than kind of like rotating like a disk. So two main issues, or not issues, differences there, I should say, between them. And they're classified mostly by their shape, not by anything else. The spirals have a few more classification types. Ellipticals is mostly by their shape. Are they kind of circular or more elliptical? And that gives you kind of like this E number. So the ones we're really interested in for this are like your starburst galaxies. So starburst galaxies are usually spiral galaxies, and they kind of sit there on the right hand side of the Hubble classification tuning fork. And there's an example of one there kind of in the green box. So starburst galaxies typically will have more gas in them, and they're going to be kind of more towards that right hand side. So like your late type ones, which are essentially your younger spirals. They've got more gas in them. You need the gas to form stars, basically, which is why elliptical galaxies have old populations of stars. They've got very little gas, so they're not making many stars. And then if you go to the other side, a bit further to the left, the older spirals, or we'd kind of call them more early type ones, these have got much less gas because they've aged, they've evolved, they've turned much of their gas already into stars. So their gas content has reduced. They've got older populations of stars. They don't really have significant star formation that's currently ongoing in those. So, probably fairly obvious here. If you've got a galaxy with more gas, you're likely going to get more star formation. So the two kind of correlate. And in the background there, you've got a nice spiral galaxy. And zoomed in, you've got kind of one of these star forming regions, which typically are normally kind of concentrated in and around the spiral arms. And you can see you've got lots of very bright blue white stars there, which are kind of your really big stars. They formed kind of together in like a cluster, really. So more gas, more star formation. Now, some spirals have significantly high star formation rates, and we would call those starbursts. So these are kind of like really elevated in the amount of stars that they're producing as a function of time. Their star formation rate is really high. So we kind of call those starburst galaxies. Now, there's a few things that kind of can trigger that. Yes, they're going to have lots of gas content in them. But if you get two galaxies that collide, two gas-rich galaxies, so two spirals, that can actually trigger the collapse of lots of gas all at the same time, which causes a massive spike in star formation. So two galaxies colliding, and you can actually see here, especially on the left-hand side one, you've got lots of blue region, which is all your bright blue stars, lots of the kind of ionized hydrogen gas around that, which will be kind of, they're always found in and around your star forming regions. So very bright from all those young bright stars that are formed. So yeah, basically what it does is large amounts of the gas in there is going to collapse simultaneously, forms lots of new stars. Now, if you have two galaxies that collide that don't have much gas in them, like two elliptical galaxies, then you don't get significant star formation happening. What happens there instead is you just get the mass of the final galaxy increasing, and it doesn't necessarily, initiate any extra star formation. Now, tidal disruption can also do it. So they don't actually have to collide with one another. You can have a galaxy kind of flying by another one, and the tides from that can also trigger the collapse of gas in both galaxies. And again, here, I think you've got like a tidal stream here between two galaxies, and you can see you've got lots of blue in there from blue stars forming out of that collapsing gas. There's also other reasons as well. So quite young spiral galaxies, there can be some internal mechanisms there that can trigger very fast rates of star formation and make it a starburst galaxy as well. So there's a few reasons really. But anyway, what generally happens when you have a spike in star formation like that is you get large amounts of these O and B type stars form. So these are like your blue stars. These are like your biggest, hottest stars. And the thing with these sorts of stars is they don't last very long. The bigger the star, the shorter their life. So they live very short lives, very kind of luminous, very bright. And that's quite important actually. Because they live quite short lives, once they've finished fusion in their core, and it's typically stars that are over 8 times the mass of the sun, they're going to end their life with a type 2 supernova, whereas if it's below that, you don't get a type 2. It'll end up more likely as a white dwarf or something like that. But a type 2, you're going to get like a pulsar, a neutron star, black hole in the centre, depending on the size and the environment that it's in as well. So we get this kind of supernova remnant there, which is the Crab Nebula on the right-hand side. And with a supernova, maybe this is fairly obvious, but you get significant outward wind from that. So lots of that, the outer layers of the star, they kind of get accelerated, and you get very, very fast, energetic winds propagating out from that supernova. That's a single supernova. And if you're in a nebula, so we saw kind of at the beginning really that a lot of these stars likely form in clusters in a cloud. So it's not just a single cloud collapsing, getting one star, it's fragmenting and you're getting lots of stars forming together. And if you've then got a supernova in that nebula but still got gas around it, it's going to cause a bubble because it blows out into it and it clears some of the gas. It's a bit more complex than that really, but essentially you get these bubbles caused by the supernova wind in the nearby gas. Now, O and B type stars typically reside in clusters, and because they're quite short-lived, if they all formed at a relatively similar sorts of time, they're all going to go supernova at a similar sort of time, dependent on their mass, obviously. Now what that will do is it will create a super bubble. So you've got all those winds from all of those supernovas all coming together to create a much larger structure and a much larger kind of outward wind from those supernovas. So we call that like a super bubble. And if we zoom out to a galactic scale, that can actually have a significant impact on the galaxy because it can accelerate all of that gas, those particles, beyond essentially the escape velocity of the galaxy, and it can blow it out of the galaxy. And here you've got an example. So you've got lots of supernovas going off in this starburst galaxy, and those blue arrows are showing you the direction of that supernova blowout from the galaxy. So all that gas is now outflowing from the galaxy. Now, there's a bit of a problem with that, in that a supernova blowout, it will remove gas from outside the galaxy, or not most of the time, but some of the times it will remove significant gas. and that's actually going to quench star formation. So future star formation is going to drop off quite rapidly if you take the gas back out again. So a starburst galaxy may experience a spike in star formation, but then actually it would drop right off again. So you don't get kind of like a sustained star formation into the future because it's removed much of that gas. So thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, then do consider becoming a member of the channel. There's extra videos in the member section, but it also helps support the channel. So thank you for watching.